You're watching the National Geographic Channel. She was found adrift in heavy seas, with not a soul on board.
I mean, this is the legendary ghost ship of all time.
She would sail again, only to meet a questionable demise. Join the search for the ghost ship, Mary Celeste, now on Mysteries of the Deep. The hunt for the lost ship Mary Celeste begins in the United States, in Highland Beach, Florida, where expedition leader John Davis and professional diver Mike Fletcher board the Ella Worley III, owned by businessman Alan Gardner. Before long, they're headed out of the channel past the magnificent waterfront homes of Fort Lauderdale, the playground of the wealthy. Leaving this wealth and luxury behind, they set a course to one of the poorest places on Earth, the nation of Haiti. The waters of the Straits of Florida and the Windward Passage are calm as they start their crossing to Haiti. A small sailing vessel made another voyage under very different conditions in December 1884. But unlike the Ella Worley, she was sailing to her death. Her arrival in Haiti would end a career of mystery and misfortune. A career of the cursed ghost ship, Mary Celeste. This tale of ill omen and tragedy began with hope and celebration on Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, on Canada's Atlantic coast. There, in May of 1861, a small crowd witnessed the launch of the shipyard's very first vessel, the trim little tall ship Amazon. Bad luck plagued her from the beginning. On her maiden voyage, her master fell fatally ill. Her next captain ran the brig into a fishing weir off the coast of Maine and had to lay her up for repairs. Back at sea, she collided with another vessel in the English Channel and sent it to the bottom. She toiled in obscurity for the next 5 years, sailing between the British Isles, the West Indies, and the Mediterranean. Then, in 1867, a grounding on Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, left her severely damaged. She was salvaged and eventually put on the auction block and sold as a wreck. She passed from owner to owner. Then, in 1872, she underwent a complete refit. A second deck was added, and her tonnage increased by almost 84 tons. To all intents and purposes, she was a brand new vessel. Now flying the Stars and Stripes, and christened with a new name, Mary Celeste was about to sail into nautical history, about to become infamous for her mysterious fate. Sapphire waters and golden sunshine greet the team as they approach Haiti, escorted by a brace of friendly dolphins. Bathed in the lazy light of late afternoon, the hills surrounding Cape Haitian seem warm and welcoming. A welcome echo by local fishermen. Music wafts across the bay from a passing coastal ferry. Just off the coast, Alan gives the signal to drop anchor.
Okay.
As arranged, the local water taxi approaches, bearing a familiar face. Adventure writer Clive Cussler has been preparing the way with the Haitian authorities. Also joining this expedition, Jean-Claude Dickmar, who knows the area and the language. The expedition team is now complete. Before the reunion of old friends and new gets too social, a sudden tropical shower reminds everyone of the work to be done.
know, the Mary...
The team plots their course for the 200-mile cruise to the reef of Rocheleau, where the Mary Celeste is reported to have gone down.
So what we'll do is we'll put divers in and around the rocks, and then while they're in, we'll run the boat around the circumference using the magnetometer and see what we can pick up.
Because the wreck may not be intact, they know that the deployment of magnetometer and side-scan sonar will be crucial to locating her remains.
But it's a historic wreck, very historic. I mean, this is the legendary ghost ship of all time. You know, the one they found floating off the Azores in 1872, and no one on board. The captain, his wife, little daughter, the crew, all gone. The boat gone. No trace of them whatsoever.
She was called a cursed ship then. She had several bad accidents before she was almost completely rebuilt, and her name changed to the Mary Celeste. Everything that's ever gone near it has seen only trouble and woe, and that's why we brought you.
That's right.
Okay, so all the trouble and woe is going to fall on my shoulders.
This is a great story of a cursed ghost ship, and I'm looking forward to writing another chapter in the story.
So fitting it would end its days in the land of voodoo.
Yeah, there you go.
Each man wonders if the curse of the Mary Celeste has already reached from beyond the grave. Clive inspects propeller damage incurred at the very start of Ella Worley's journey. In the dark of night, the crew had been forced to attempt repairs. They knew that unless they could jury-rig a replacement, the expedition would be over before it began. And then, to make matters worse, a flash of lightning signaled the arrival of a storm brewing up out of nowhere. Repairs made, the journey continues with a certain wariness and respect for the mysteries of the sea. The first voyage of the newly refitted Mary Celeste began on November 7, 1872. Her new master was Captain Benjamin Briggs, a 38-year-old salt from a Massachusetts family of mariners. Briggs was of sturdy, God-fearing stock, a strict but respected captain. His wife, Sarah, and their youngest, 2-year-old Sophia, were to accompany him on the voyage. Mrs. Briggs outfitted the tiny captain's cabin with the necessities: a sewing machine and a small melodeon for sing-alongs. The 7-man crew was a mix of American and German sailors, all well experienced and professional. Mary Celeste was hauling 1,700 barrels of raw alcohol to Genoa, Italy. Like all good captains, Benjamin Briggs kept a log. The entries were concise but unrevealing. For something happened after the morning of November 25th, when the last reported entry was logged. 9 days later, the vessel would be found drifting 378 miles east of Santa Maria Island, with not a soul on board. The team approaches the reef of Rocheleau and makes an unexpected discovery. When Mysteries of the Deep to Mary Celeste on Mysteries of the Deep. To while away some of the 12-hour journey, Mike and Alan try their hand at repairing the old prop. The clang of metal on metal does little to disturb Clive's meditation. He studies the charts in hopes of somehow divining the location of the Mary Celeste wreck. The old shipping and insurance records differ slightly in their location of the grounding upon the reef of Rocheleau. They plan to explore the whole reef, but have no idea what to expect. And 116 years of tides and currents will no doubt have had their effect. The team has settled upon an area for the search, but Clive knows there are no guarantees. According to the instruments, the target is in sight, or at least it should be. But with all hands at the lookout, there is no sign of a reef awash in the calm sea. Clive at last spots a small island which appears to be inhabited.
Stop, 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 stop.
Jean-Claude hails some passing fishermen.
Eh bien, comment elle est comme ça?
In Creole French, he asks if they've seen any sign of shipwreck beneath the crystal waters.
Pas jamais en vieux langue, vieux canon, vieux bail comme ça, en bas de l'eau.
The fishermen report there is a man on the island who knows of an anchor that may be related to the lost wreck. This is a surprise. The charts make no mention of an isolated community.
Mais on parle ça. Non, on parle ça. But you want to go on an island to... Yeah. Ouais. On peut prendre un petit bateau, ça, on peut aller dans l'île là. On peut aller... Ouais,
Did you ask him what his name is? The one that's doing the talking.
Comment elle est vous-même? Antoine? Douane? Comme douane là? Aïe, aïe, aïe!
Merci, Douane!
Douane, piston.
John, Mike, and Jean-Claude enlist the fishermen to take them to the island for a look around. As they leave Clive on the Ella Worley 3, they remember the tale of the sailors who ventured out in their dory to investigate the Mary Celeste. On the afternoon of December 4th, the brigantine Dei Gratia was sailing the Atlantic north of the Azores, bound for Gibraltar. The vessel had come through days of bad weather, and the seas were still heavy. The helmsman, or the captain, David Morehouse, spotted a sail off the port bow. The distant vessel was sailing in a westward direction, with a noticeable yaw, and her sails in disarray. Most of her sheets were furled, but some of her foresails were set and others had blown loose. Even with no distress signal evident, Morehouse knew she was in trouble. He ordered the Dei Gratia closer. He repeatedly hailed the ghostly vessel, but received no reply. Finally, he ordered a boat lowered, and the first mate, Oliver Deveau, and 2 crewmen pulled through the swells to the other vessel. Once aboard, Deveau surveyed the eerie deck. Other than the wind and the rigging and the creak of timbers, the ship was utterly silent. Mary Celeste was deserted, with every indication that the crew had left in a hurry. The ship's boat, sextant, and navigational tables were gone, but the crew's heavy weather gear and their pipes were still neatly stowed below. The dishes were washed, and the bunks were made, except for the captain's. 2 hatch covers were lying on the deck, and the captain's skylight was open. In the hold, the majority of barrels was accounted for and in good condition. Nowhere was there evidence of violence. Briggs was known as an experienced mariner. What could have inspired him to abandon a perfectly sound vessel, hazarding the lives of his wife, child, and crew to a small boat in heavy seas? Over 130 years later, their disappearance remains one of the great mysteries of the sea. What became of the crew of the Mary Celeste? The fishermen are talkative. They seem pleased to have guests to bring home. As the team approach the island, they are amazed at the sight which greets them. This community of 120 men, women, and children all live on an island built completely of conch shells. They literally live on their harvest. The odd-looking strangers are not a welcome sight for everyone. By North American standards, the poverty of the village is unbelievable. This tiny community lives entirely by the sea. The people who live here were originally from the southern tip of Haiti. The idea to build a reef up using conch shells originated from 3 brothers from whom the islanders are descended. And it gives the island its unofficial name, Trois Frères, or 3 brothers. They farm the conchs, which are so plentiful in the shallows surrounding the island. They eat some of the meat and trade the rest for the basics they need to survive, and use the discarded shells to build up the reef and support their fragile homes. They handled their tools with confidence born from practice. People who live here seem to find the economic and social aspects of the Conch Island preferable to living on mainland Haiti. The heaps of shells give the place a moonscape quality. Nothing green grows here, and yet here these people live and work in a close-knit community.
Yeah? You gonna put it on for us?
We're gonna get a shot of, after this, get a shot of the boat landing.
Yeah, homemade. Beautiful. Nice work.
Yes.
In the midst of the constant bone-dry clatter of conch shells rings the sound of laughter and play of children. One gets the feeling that visitors are not a usual event. The leader of the village answers Jean-Claude's questions about the Mary Celeste. He provides the team with some idea of the underwater geography of the conch shell island. But as for a wreck, he and his people know of no such thing. His people know every inch of the local seabed, so this news is disappointing.
No.
He does mention an old anchor which lies in the shallows, but he doesn't know where it came from. This would be an obvious place to start. Headed back to the boat, the team is grateful that they stumbled upon the little island. Once again, the search for the Mary Celeste has led to the unexpected. Divers scour the reef and find evidence of a shipwreck.
It's a wreck.
The search for more clues when Mary Celeste continues on Mysteries of the Deep. One can only wonder what was going through the mind of Oliver DeVoe as he and his men rowed back to the Dei Gratia. Considering Mary Celeste's state, it was decided to sail Mary Celeste to Gibraltar. Morehouse was reluctant to split up his crew, but the thought of leaving Mary Celeste to her doom and the surety of a handsome salvage award may well have changed his mind. DeVoe and 2 men returned to the derelict and started putting her to rights. When Morehouse reached Gibraltar with Mary Celeste, he filed a claim for salvage and hearings were scheduled by the court. The extraordinary circumstances surrounding the case aroused suspicions with the Queen's prosecutor. He was convinced foul play was at the root of the disappearance. Initially, he doggedly pursued the theory that the crew had gotten at the alcohol and, in a fit of drunkenness, murdered the captain and his family. Others insinuated that the Mary Celeste's captain and Morehouse had conspired to stage the abandonment and share in the salvage proceeds. Or that some of Mary Celeste's own crew had mutinied and slaughtered the others on board. In the end, the court dismissed these accusations and cleared Morehouse and his crew of any suspicion. Nevertheless, Morehouse was only awarded £1,700 for salvage fees, less than half of the usual amount granted in such circumstances. As for the mystery of the missing crew, the court offered no solutions. Sailors are a superstitious lot, and for the rest of her career, the Mary Celeste was branded a jinx. Her owners would often have difficulty finding a crew willing to sail her. Over the next 12 years, the vessel changed hands and home ports time and again. During much of this period, she sat tied up, rotting and unwanted. In the end, she was little more than a floating wreck and met her demise in a most ignoble way. An American consortium purchased her at a rock-bottom price, and at the end of 1884, prepared her to sail from Boston to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. It would be the last voyage she would ever make.
Go for it, Jean-Claude.
The team continues to search. There is a concern that the wreck, if there is even one here, might be buried under millions of conch shells.
Now, anytime. Okay. Straight up.
Mike and Jean-Claude began searching the area suggested by the village leader. The water is shallow and the visibility is excellent. Soon they spot a familiar shape jutting up from the bottom. It's an anchor, but more than likely too large to have been Mary Celeste's. Mike discovers a cable leading from the anchor. This definitely disqualifies it as a relic of the mystery brig. The cable is far too new. The anchor is obviously from a more modern ship. Was the anchor dropped by a passing vessel? Or is it part of a wreck? If so, where's the rest of it? The discovery of the anchor reaffirms the team's belief that they will not find the Mary Celeste intact. They begin to run magnetometer scans of the area. The magnetometer will pick up readings of anything magnetic along the seabed. The habitation of the reef complicates the scan. An anomaly could simply turn out to be a gas can or knife dropped by one of the fishermen. A scan turns up faint readings closer to the island. Too close for the Ella Worley. Could this be the Mary Celeste?
Did you get that time?
Same place, but it's not quite. It wasn't quite as big because I was a little too far in.
They were slightly off too. Yeah, it was right off the boat.
Right up there?
Yeah.
Well, there's something there. I don't know whether it's what we want. It isn't that big. It's not that big.
Well, maybe we just didn't come close enough to it. It could be further in.
I can't get any further.
No, but I say that.
Equipped with a portable magnetometer, Mike sets out to find the source. Any remnants of Mary Celeste may well be covered in decades' worth of coral growth. Allen reports their findings to James Delgado.
Totally different, totally different. And we've talked to there's a lot of natives out here fishing and stuff, and we've been talking to them, and everybody said there is nothing here. There's no low areas. There's one low area, but that's it, and there's a village on it. So, we're still looking though.
Mike patiently scans the bottom, his progress watched by puzzled fishermen. At last, his patience is rewarded. He also gets a reading off what appears to be a chunk of wood. It's not much, but it's an indication that they're on the right track. Could it be true that beneath this layer of coral and conch shells lies not only the remains of the Mary Celeste, but evidence of the criminal conspiracy that killed her?
Put a spike in it. Yep, okay.
Looking better.
That's the only reason why it's there's a wreck. That's a wreck. That's good. Yeah, spike, brass spike.
Wunderbar. That's it.
Looking better.
That's it.
It's
a wreck.
Big sheets of copper.
You got more copper sheeting?
Oh yeah, big pieces.
Really?
That's probably what was keeping.
What?
Great, ballast stone?
You gotta bring a couple back.
Oh, you
Yeah.
found a wreck. Gosh.
That is wonderful.
Isn't that
Well,
good?
there we go. Yeah.
It's definitely in there. Something. I don't know. And it's covering a big area. It's not a 45-gallon drum. Between us and that boat, you'll
Yep.
see that high
it.
spot?
Yep.
And it's just forward of that, closer to us.
The American consortium loaded the Mary Celeste with her last cargo in Boston, and such a cargo. Her manifest listed everything from casks of ale and tons of butter to cases of new boots and crates of hardware. The lot was insured for the princely sum of $25,000 by 5 different underwriters. As he approached Haiti in a dead calm and clear weather, the captain, Gilman C. Parker, ordered the helmsman to run the ship aground on the reef of Rochefort. Once she was firmly fetched on the reef, Captain Parker ordered the crew to cut away the masts. Parker unloaded what he could sell. It was insurance fraud, pure and simple. The divers gather more remnants of the shipwreck. Will one hold the clues to the wreck's identity? Find out on Mysteries of the Deep.
One of the things that will be important is to get enough information and get it back to Jim Delgado, who is the team's archaeologist, and be able for him to understand what we've seen.
So in a perfect situation, we could end up with 4 points that would describe the area of the wreck. We can measure that off roughly.
And maybe even find where the actual anchor is, and hopefully that'll give us our bow.
With the finding of the ballast stones and nails, the team is sure they have a wreck. The team carefully measures off a search grid and then begin the painstaking task of looking for remnants. This shipwreck is in pieces. She must be found one spike, one board, one copper plate at a time. Beneath the decades of coral and conch, the team sifts out tiny shards of the wreck. Some of the bigger pieces, such as this, are blackened and burned. Could it be evidence of Parker's treachery? As they work the grid, the team begins to recognize a pattern in the coral. This looks like an anchor. The relics are so widely strewn that each spike each smooth ballast stone recovered is cause for celebration.
The coral is cut exactly where the wreck went in.
Really?
Oh, it's like you would describe normally. Broke the coral.
The pattern in the coral, as with the rest of their evidence, must be pieced and puzzled together. The divers continue to sift through the silt and coral below for signs of the Mary Celeste. Hers has always been a story of tantalizing fragments, daring the listener to fit them together. The team has recovered numerous bits and pieces, but can they be proven to belong to the ghost ship Mary Celeste? Alone with their thoughts underwater, the team members find themselves pondering the Mary Celeste mystery. What did happen that day in 1872? Why did Captain Briggs and his family abandon the seaworthy Mary Celeste? Numerous writers over the years have offered theories, including Arthur Conan Doyle, whose sensational tale did much to make her famous. Some have suggested mutiny and piracy at sea. Others drifted into the occult, laying the blame on the Bermuda Triangle or alien abduction. The truth is probably more logical. Many historians feel that the cargo of alcohol offers the key. Thinking that the vapors from his cargo of alcohol had filled the hold, turning the Mary Celeste into a floating bomb, Briggs may have panicked. So he and his crew and family fled to the longboat while the vapors dissipated. At this point, something went terribly wrong. Somehow, the tether stretching from the boat and the ship parted, and Mary Celeste sailed off into infamy, leaving her crew and master to be swallowed up by the seas.
Got some really prime pieces of wood.
The nail. See?
Yep.
Copper sheeting nail.
Yep. Got 2 or 3 pieces with nails in it.
Nails in it.
Pieces of wood that...
Jean-Claude! Just like Santa.
I thought they were all Scots.
So we got his cup though.
So there was an iron
spike,
before,
yes.
yeah?
More the wood with the nails gone.
Yeah, that's great.
Great.
This is great stuff. This is...
They know in their hearts that this could very well be the legendary ghost ship. But now they must prove it.
I was trying to get Jean-Claude to leave the big...
Parker's destruction of the Mary Celeste was premeditated, and the insurance investigators soon discovered that the cargo manifest was a sham. Bottles of ale were filled with water. Crates of silverware contained cheap dog collars. A warrant was issued, and Parker was arrested. He and the shippers were charged with conspiracy, and Parker also with barratry, a crime punishable by death under U.S. law. But the proceedings produced little satisfaction and less justice. While the shippers admitted their guilt and made good on their debts, a hung jury declined to convict Parker, and he was released. Within 3 months, he was dead. 3 months later, his first mate died as well. All the conspiring firms went bankrupt. It was as if the curse of Mary Celeste endured even as her timbers were rotting off the coast of Haiti, a land where voodoo is practiced.
Again, Mike?
Got the center point, which is where we excavated the copper sheeting and the spikes. and then you have the 4 points of the compass at 14 meters out from the center line. And the natural harbor that the Haitians are using basically lines right up to the center of the site where we find scattered bits of iron and copper and wood. And Alan, you got the exact
position?
Straight up and down over where we excavated
exactly where we are.
Copper.
Yes.
As the Ella Worley raises anchor, the men take a last look at the reef which may have claimed the Mary Celeste. This barren reef, now home to a fishing community, is a tangible example of the ebb and flow of history. One community built on the bones of those that came before. For the team, there is no greater satisfaction than giving voice to the relics of the past. Displayed on the deck are the tiny artifacts of some once proud ship, now more a part of the sea bottom than wood and iron. They must be bathed in seawater to keep them from drying out and crumbling. Chunks of timber, some still bearing scorch marks, ballast stones, spikes, and copper sheathing. Perhaps tangible pieces of a ship of legend, a campfire ghost story made real once more. What secrets will the artifacts reveal?
This is dateable. That's wonderful.
Are they the remains of the ghost ship Mary Celeste? Find out when Mysteries of the Deeps of the Deep. Back in Highland Beach, Mike and John say their farewells to Jean-Claude and Alan. A wreck has been found, but the search is not over. Now begins the hunt for proof, for the certainty that the wreck is indeed the legendary Mary Celeste. This leg of the search will take them back to the homeland of the vessel, to Nova Scotia, Canada, to Halifax. John and Mike meet with scientist Alan Ruffman. Here, they will cut samples of the ballast stones and try to secure a wood sample that can later be date tested in a lab by James Delgado.
Oh, you got some weight to that. Come on in. Wow. Let's see what we got in here. Wow. Oh, this is quite a dense rock, heavy.
But that's a good thing, right?
Yep, and I think what we're going to try to do is to figure out whether this is a rock that came from Nova Scotia. So with that sample number, we're going to follow it right through the process. I suggest that we're going to cut a thin section off 3 different corners and have a look at actually the mineralogy, the actual texture of the rock, perhaps the age, perhaps the geochemistry, but can we in fact match this rock to the kinds of rocks that we know come from Nova Scotia and are found in the Minas Basin, close to the area where the Mary Celeste was built. Let's figure out what's inside these rocks.
The process is much akin to an autopsy. John and Mike wait anxiously while the hard-won prizes go under the blade. Samples of the rock will be cut for mineralogical analysis to determine if they are consistent with the geology of Nova Scotia, or if they are native to New York, the site where Mary Celeste had her major refit.
Looks quite a bit different though when you take the rock as opposed to the...
Polished by the grinding wheel, the heart of the stone proves to have the look of beach stones that litter the coast of New York, from an area known to provide ballast rock to the shipyards where Mary Celeste's refit took place. If their origins can be proven, this data, combined with the historical information provided by insurance records and other documents, will go a long way to proving that the famous mystery ghost ship, Mary Celeste, has been found.
Number 10.
The chunks of wood will provide another challenge. Most of the near-petrified shards are too small or too badly decomposed for accurate date testing. But most are large enough to tell the species of the tree the wood was cut from.
It's a very fast-growing tree. There's only, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rings there. Yeah. The whole cut right the way through won't give us enough rings, but this looks to me like a different kind of wood.
Each of the pieces is carefully cataloged and preserved for later handling.
This is a reasonable number of rings. Keep the 2 pieces. This is actually another piece of wood. Yep.
Finally, the team discover a piece willing to part with her secrets.
But here, you see from here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is datable. This is datable. I'm excited. That's wonderful. All right.
This is a tremendous stroke of luck. They have a piece suitable for dating and 12 samples to be tested for species type.
This is what we've done here, is we've gone right through the middle of the whole sample. And the question is this type of wood the kind of wood that might have grown in Nova Scotia, might have been put into the Mary Celeste? Is it a wood that's totally exotic to Nova Scotia and therefore may have no relationship to the vessel? If it is wood that could be in the Mary Celeste, then we'd like to know what age it is. And we want to match this tree ring sequence, the dendrochronology, with a known chronology in this particular type of wood and see if we can put an age on each one of those rings. This is the wonderful thing about tree ring work, is that in fact each tree ring represents an individual year. So if you're able to date it, you'll actually know which age each of those tree rings are. And of course for this study, we want to know that the wood is older than the building date of the Mary Celeste, so that this is wood that could have been in the vessel, as opposed to being much younger and therefore perhaps from another vessel unrelated. So this is where we're headed.
In the lab, James Delgado assembles and distills the data derived from the Haiti samples. Having the wood samples and an initial analysis from scientist David Etheridge, he compares them with known samples from the Bay of Fundy region from the 19th century. The rigorous testing leads James Delgado to one conclusion. The samples retrieved from Haiti are without a doubt pieces from the lost brigantine, Mary Celeste.
I'd like to thank everybody, all the ladies and gentlemen from the media, to come out in the hot weather and be here today. The Mary Celeste, as we know, is one of the great all-time ghost stories. We've always heard of the Flying Dutchman, which was myth, but the Mary Celeste is fact. Found floating offshore off the Azores in 1872 with no one on board, her crew of 6 gone, her captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs, and his wife, and young 2-year-old daughter all had vanished and had never been found. The Board of Inquiry, of course, came up with all sorts of scenarios to it, everything from mutiny to, murder to mayhem. But the story pretty much is they abandoned the ship for whatever reason, and then the ship sailed off and left them. So it's a great story, and one that will continue to haunt future generations for a long, long time to come.
It seems ironic that the tale of Mary Celeste ends in the cold, factual realm of a laboratory. For 130 years, the very mention of her name conjured the irrational. She was inextricably linked to the occult, to ghostly fantasy. For generations, the mystery surrounding the disappearance of Briggs, his family, and crew epitomized the unexplainable.
Perhaps it's significant that in her final death on that reef in Haiti, she ultimately allowed for the establishment of a colony of people that the film crew did meet and who filmed, and those people living there on that reef still fish and work those waters, and their boats use the channel that Mary Celeste cut through the reef, and that channel allows them to go out and fish. So in the end, perhaps the curse has been lifted, and Mary Celeste now offers a chance for life for those people in that faraway Haitian community.
The problem with looking for a shipwreck is they're never where they're supposed to be. And you make all these great plans because you figure everything is the same as it was 130 years ago. And the problem is when you get there, it's not like the old charts, it's not like what you imagine, nothing is what you expect. And that's why this was so unexpected. I mean, it was just nothing in our wildest imaginations would figure this barren reef would all of a sudden look like this with people living there in their shacks, farming conch shells.
The tangible relics of a wrecked ship prove to us she existed, but the riddle of that ill-fated voyage in 1872 will haunt us forever. The mystery of the Mary Celeste will live on.